Do you have PCOS and do you want your body to be so healthy that you are ready to make a baby? If that's you, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to the PCOS Fertility Health Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Angela Potter. I am an integrative fertility doctor specializing in all things PCOS. I am the creator of the PCOS Fertility Protocol, and I have worked with women across the country to help them turn around their PCOS symptoms, turn around their irregular cycles so that their fertility is optimized. And I am so excited that you are joining me here on this podcast to take a one step forward for your very own fertility journey. If you are a new listener, welcome. This is such a cool episode to join the community in. And if you didn't know, this is a very cool, dynamic community to join. You are joining a network of women who are committed to changing their fertility health, to getting to the root cause of what's keeping them stuck. And they don't give up. They keep looking for answers, and they are fun and exciting. And so you are joining this today. So congratulations. And if you are a longtime listener, welcome back. You know I am thrilled to have you here. So buckle your seatbelt for another fabulous episode. And the reason today's episode is so cool is because I have Allison Schaaf with me. She is a registered dietitian and a trained chef, and she is the creator of Prep Dish, which is a meal planning service which is revolutionizing families and households across the country. And she is going to share tips for you today. If you've got that burning question inside of you, what in the world do I make for dinner? If you are, excited about making changes for your fertility health with your nutrition, and you love food, and you go to the grocery store or the market and you see all these fresh veggies and then stuff's in your fridge and you're like, what do I do with this? What can I be making? And it's, 6:30 and you're hungry, and then you just end up ordering for takeout or just, eating something super simple, and all those vegetables go to waste in your fridge. If you're stuck in that rhythm and you're stuck in that cog and you want to get out of that, then you need to listen to today's episode, because Allison is going to give just foundational, simple, and powerful steps that you can take to completely change your nutrition by setting up these habits of meal planning. Stay tuned till the end, because she is also going to share a very special gift from Prep Dish specifically to you, because you are a member of this community. So listen till the end. Now let's dive into the conversation that Allison and I have all about meal planning. Allison, welcome to the PCOS Fertility Health Podcast. I am thrilled to have you here today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I was so excited to see your email and get a chance to talk with you.
Yeah, this is great because you are the expert in deconstructing this puzzle that is meal planning and helping people to eat really delicious and yummy but nutritious food. So I'm really excited to have you here and for the listener to gain your knowledge into how to make things easier.
Yes, I know. Well, figuring out what to eat and what's for dinner, it's a problem that we all share. So happy to help with that.
Yes. So I would love to start off by you sharing what inspired you to start helping women with, or families, anyone with meal planning, and, your background and what led you into this field.
Yeah. So, it started early on. I went to culinary school, but then also became a dietitian. So even during my schooling, I realized if I want to help people eat better, you've got to be in the kitchen and focus on the cooking. So I wanted to figure out how to combine those. And I also just realized there was such a strong correlation with how you feel and what you're eating. So if you're going to go through the process of cooking, just making sure it's tasting good and all that. And then in my career, I started out as a personal chef, going into people's homes and, doing basically like this meal prep, like going in one day a week and getting their meals ready for the week. And I really enjoyed that. But I was limited to like 6 or 7 clients, and that was kind of all I could do for the week. And I realized I wanted to help more people. And then also just selfishly, I realized I don't know if this is a sustainable career for where I see myself, which is eventually, getting married and having a family. So as I was going into my personal chef clients, I realized I had this process. And so I started writing that down like, how can you be really efficient at the grocery store? How do you plan a menu? How do you batch cook? Like all of these different tips and tricks that I was helping, again, like 6 people a week. So I just kind of started writing that down. The recipes, yes, but more so the process and the system. And then this was kind of this was like 13 years ago. So it's kind of when things were online. I was like, okay, how do I take this online? How do I, sell it? And figured out a way to kind of get this in the hands of families, and eventually got to this place where, yes, I'm not helping 6 people now. It's like I'm helping thousands of people every week get meals on the table. And then it was this really cool full circle moment, because when I created it, I was young and single, and yeah, it was good to meal plan and get my foods on the table. But now I'm a busy mom with 3 little boys, and if I don't use my meal plans, dinner is like so stressful and almost not happening. So I basically created this product that now I need every single week. So it's been really cool to see it come full circle like that.
Oh, how cool. And I didn't realize that you had gone to culinary school as well before becoming a dietitian.
Yes. Yeah, there's a culinary nutrition program. So it was really cool. We learned the basics of, the culinary basics, but then I cooked at a few different health spas and that sort of thing. So it was really
Oh
fun.
my gosh, that is so cool. And what a neat way to weave these things together. Like
Mhm.
you have that background in the culinary arts and then also the science and the foundation of nutrition and health.
Yeah, and I love the nutrition world, and there's so much out there on what we should do and why, but I'm like, okay, I want to help with the how. I want to do the really practical hands-on, here are the tools, here's what you do day to day, week to week to really implement all this great advice and, help that you're getting from people like yourself.
Well, I love that because I would say that a very common complaint or just overwhelm that a lot of people are approaching me with is like, there's so much information out there, particularly with food, like all this information, how do I even sort through it? So yes, that's one aspect, but then there's that other element of implementing it and getting food on the table. And
Yeah.
that's where you come in to help with those systems, right? To set up
Yeah.
those meal plans.
Yeah, it's one thing to say eat more vegetables. Well, yeah, you can eat more vegetables, but if you sit there and just like chomp on a piece of celery, well, eventually you're going to get like bored, and that doesn't, how do you
Yeah.
make it taste delicious and something that you want to do? And so that's where I kind of come in.
I love that. Yes, right. Because it can be hard to be creative when you're at work or maybe you have kids or, there's all these different elements. And then you're like, but I want to sit down to a really yummy meal.
Hmm.
But, and then it gets to be the last thing you think about.
Yes.
Yeah. So, can you share with us, like, what are some of your systems that you have set up in order to get meal planning so that it works really well?
Mhm. So, yeah, I'll kind of go through how I look at it. And the number one key, and this is whether, so, my meal plans, that's like the process, and you can buy the plans and the menus. But really, the place to start is have a plan, go through. I always say the number one key to healthy eating is having that plan, because too often, even if you go and you maybe buy some healthy food at the store with the intentions of like, oh, I'm going to eat healthier this week. If you get to dinner and you don't know what you're going to make, it's really hard at 5 o'clock to be like, what am I going to do with these vegetables? And and then it's like, okay, I'm just going to call and take out, or, it's just hard. So having
Mhm.
that upfront plan is the key to making sure you're going to eat healthy throughout the week. So that way, when you get to dinner, you already know what you're going to make. So if nothing else from this episode, if you just sit down before the week starts and kind of jot down, here's what we're going to have for dinner each night, that's going to be the first step. It
So
sounds simple,
simple.
but it's like,
Yes. How often have we like bought vegetables and then they just go bad in the back of the vegetable drawer because you're just
yes.
like, eh. I don't know what to do with them. And
Like these
yeah.
recipes looked great when I was going through the store, but what am I doing with them?
Uh-huh, right. Yes. So on that note about the grocery store, a couple of minutes ago you were saying like how to make grocery store, what word did you use? Effective, or like how can
Yes.
someone go into the grocery store feeling really confident?
Yep. So after you kind of quote unquote have that plan, which would be like writing down, here's the meals that I want for the week. The next step would be like, okay, what ingredients do I need to make these meals happen? And writing out those ingredients and going into the grocery store. And believe me, I have been in a grocery store where I don't have a list. Every time that happens, I end up kicking myself. I buy random stuff. I buy stuff I don't want. I end up in aisles that I don't even need to be in. So going into the grocery store and always having a list that's like the first step. And then from there, one thing I found when I was a personal chef, making the list by the way the grocery store is laid out. So in my grocery store, the first section is produce. So I put all the produce there. And this will also help prevent you from, again, going down aisles that maybe you don't even need to go down, and you don't have to buy those impulse purchases. Another step further is nowadays online grocery shopping is very easy. I'm in the country and I have 2 or 3 grocery stores that now deliver to my house. So there's a lot of weeks where I just get online and put in my order. And that actually, I found, even though there's a slight premium that you pay, you avoid all of those impulse purchases and you can be more thoughtful and intentional with your purchases. So I find overall it really helps me to be kind of more organized with my grocery shopping because I'm sitting down, buying it, and then it's kind of like done. And that's one thing with Prep Dish, we provide the grocery list with the menu, and we are integrating with Instacart. Hopefully by the time this airs, it's kind of like already in the process, but that way, our subscribers can just push a button and have their Instacart cart filled, have the groceries delivered, and just, make it as easy as possible. So just looking at each step along the way and how can you simplify it. So, really the goal with meal planning and healthy eating is to make it easy so you're not so overwhelmed by it, right? Like if it's overwhelming and this big thing, you end up not doing it or giving up. So I'm always trying to like piece by piece, how do we make each step a little easier and simplified?
Yeah, which is what we're all looking for,
Yes.
really. So, let's lay this out. So the first step is to make the
Yep.
plan.
Yep.
And then the second step would be to go to the grocery store. Well, before even going to the grocery store, you would plan out how you would shop in the grocery store.
Yep. We
Is
have the
that
list of
right?
ingredients and yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And recipes would be in that while you're planning.
Yep. Yep. Coming through
Okay.
recipes. Yep.
Okay. So could you talk us through like just the timeline for a good week's meal plan, how you would set that step by step?
Yeah. So again, like kind of coming up with the recipes. And when I'm looking at the recipes, I'm usually looking at, so this is where you can go really complicated on how you set up the recipes or just simple. Be like, okay, here's the 5 meals I know I can make. I know my family's going to eat it. This is what we're going to eat this week. That's great. You can do that. And you can also repeat it. Some families are different. Some people are okay having like 1 or 2 weeks of a plan and just like repeating that week after week or making like a few tweaks. Like every Tuesday we have tacos. Sometimes it's fish tacos. Sometimes it's steak. At Prep Dish, we're providing more variety of like, okay, we're going to completely plan it out. We're looking at it. We're making sure each week is this like balance of proteins and vegetables and carbs and kind of looking at it that way. A few things that we look at when we're looking at those recipes. And again, this is kind of the next step is looking at it and being, okay, how can I make things more efficient in terms of either ingredients or sauces? So things like, okay, I'm going to make a chimichurri this week. Let me on Monday do a chimichurri like salmon. And then in a few days later, it'll be double the chimichurri and use that as like a steak salad. So little efficiencies like that is because then, you're doing it once, but kind of getting 2 meals out of it. Or maybe you're making a big roast or a chicken or something, and you're using it one night on its own and then the next night in tacos or something. So just figuring out ways to be more efficient there. That's kind of the next level, but I think it's good once you kind of get in the swing of it, to just look at it and be like, okay, how can I really streamline this?
Yum. I mean, I think when you're talking about like, oh, chimichurri sauces, like you just, throw some here and then throw some there, people are going to be like, tell me, Allison, tell me how to do the chimichurri sauce.
Well, and it's funny, some of these like fancy sounding recipes, they can be pretty simple. Like once you get into it and start cooking and like looking at the meals. And again, like if you're be more efficient. So it's like you're not making a new sauce every night, but maybe that week, okay, I'm going to do a chimichurri sauce for 2 meals. And the other ones are very simple. Like we have a recipe that's salt and pepper drumsticks. It's literally like chicken drumsticks with some salt and pepper, and you roast it. Big hit in my family every time we make it. My kids love it. I love it. It's really delicious. And it's just salt and pepper. Like we have a few times where a lot of the meals on the meal plan, like, yes, there'll be some ones that are kind of more fun, but then some of the simplest ones are the best too. Some salt and pepper is all you need sometimes. So I think it's fun to go into the variety, but also keeping in mind sometimes just really plain and simple. This is true of vegetables too. Just like roasting with some olive oil and salt is almost always a delicious way to enjoy a vegetable.
Yum.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So keeping it mixed up between some simplicity and then
Yes.
also some like fancier, in quotation
Mhm.
marks, like sauces or different ways of preparation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And, so for the person who's listening, who is super busy, overwhelmed, has PCOS, really wants to get pregnant, knows that food is supportive of their fertility, but just that everything else is just
Um,
clouding how they can, move forward getting food, nutritious food in easily.
mhm.
What's one or two steps that they could take that would make a big impact in their weekly meals?
Yeah. Okay. So this is probably not where I thought I was going to go with this, but I'm going to get back to the direction. So number one, and I've been through that. I had, that I've had some fertility struggles, and diet and nutrition plays such an important role in preparing your body and your partner's body for, baby. So it is so important. I really think the first step is be like understanding that, getting to your why of like, okay, why is this important to me? And really being clear on that, right? Like, this is important. This is something I care about. Starting from that point. So then everything else, you're more invested, right? You're like, okay, this is really important to me right now. And this is why. Okay, once that is established, which, and I know it is, but I think sometimes we just jump into like, oh, people like, I see this and I see that. And it's like so overwhelming. It's like, okay, this is what is important to me. If you're working with a practitioner, maybe talking with them, like, what do you think are the key things that I need to focus on with diet and nutrition? There's some like general things, right? Like cutting out processed foods, eating more whole, real foods. Like there's those general things that are going to be healthy for anyone. So you can focus on those. But I think also working one-on-one with a practitioner and asking, where do you think I need to focus? Like, is there something that you're intolerant to, or do you need to cut out like added sugars, or, just kind of working with someone to see where you need to focus. But if you're going to take just a more general approach, just deciding to like cut out the processed foods, cook more at home, and using real foods, a protein, a veg, and a starch, which can be starchy vegetable or carb. That's where you need to focus. And that goes back to like, and let's have a plan for the week that focuses on those foods. And whether that's using like a meal plan, like we create at Prep Dish to help guide you through. I always say you can start using the meal plans, even if you want to just kind of get an idea of how I do it and then kind of run with it and do it on your own. But just kind of figuring out how can I implement that in my life, using the real whole foods and cooking at home.
Yeah. Wow. I love that you took it in that direction. But that's so important. Is that you really have to take that step back to figure out your why.
Because I think
Because
otherwise people they get into it and then they give up because they kind of forget why they're doing it. It's like you don't want to be doing it just because you see other people on Instagram do it. Do it because it's something that's so important to you that you really want to like, it's a habit change. It's a lifestyle change. So you have to be invested in it.
yes. Yes. And so you were just sharing that, you went through your own fertility issues. And so in that time, what was the most helpful for you in keeping streamlined with your meal plans throughout the week when you were really focused on your fertility?
Yeah, it was hard because it's this hard balance to strike of you don't want to be so stressed and so restrictive that then your body like feels stress, right? Like it's this hard balance of like don't stress and you're stressed to not stress. But I think just so again, like I would focus just on nourishing foods that tasted really good. I've always been gluten-free. I have an intolerance. That was easy for me. At one point I did give up dairy, again, like some people need to, some don't, but figuring out like this, just as long as you can focus on whole real foods. And so that's what I focused on, just like lots of vegetables, like bone broths, and just cooking really tasty foods that I could enjoy. Because I also think there's this thing that happens where, yes, you could be eating super healthy, but if it's super restrictive and you're not enjoying it, that's actually not healthy for us either. So just figuring out a way to where you can enjoy it. And that's where I kind of go back to like, you have to be on board with it as a positive thing. And that way you kind of have this like positive energy around it, right? Like you don't want to be like, oh, I have to do this and it's so awful. Because then you're not going to stick with it. You're not going to enjoy it. And in fact, that's actually not healthy for you. So figuring out how can I enjoy eating healthy. And for me, that's focusing on all these foods that I enjoy, like roasted vegetables that I was talking about earlier with just like some olive oil and salt, and just really having this mindset shift of like, I want to do this, it's good for my body, and I actually enjoy eating healthy. So kind of looking
Yes.
at it more holistically, I guess.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And you and I are talking, it's what, the beginning of March right
Mhm.
now. What right now is one of your favorite dishes? Just in general, like giving out some ideas for some yummy meals for right now, kind of end of winter, getting into spring.
So it's funny, right now I'm testing out summer menus because I'm always a few months ahead. And so we've actually just pulled out the grill and started doing some grilled items. And some of those are
Nice.
really nice. And again, that comes back to like they're simple, but kind of, I don't know, it just makes it feel more summery. So I really enjoy those. I'm also a big fan of salad. So I don't like salad as much in the winter, but when it's the summer, I really like having a salad on the side of my meals. It's something about like being crisp and I don't know. So I like a good salad. I've been playing around with some new salad dressing recipes lately. So I think that's where my mind is. I'm trying to think of some others that I've had recently. Chicken thighs are the other thing that comes to mind just because what was the one that we did the other day? But my kids love chicken thighs for whatever reason are like the biggest hit of protein at our house. Like everyone loves them.
That's great. That's great. And you were just mentioning salad dressings. You could probably batch like a big amount of salad dressing, right? And keep it
Yes.
on hand. What are some other things that you recommend batching? You talked about sauces earlier, but are there like things that you can keep in the pantry or just always have on hand in the fridge that would help enhance meals?
Yes. Well, the dressing thing I'll mention too. I like to batch that. And then also you can kind of a lot of times double up and use it as a marinade and dressing. So if you make like a big batch of balsamic dressing, you can use it to marinate those chicken thighs, but then you can use it on a salad like a few days later. And even something like a lemon dressing or something, you can use it again, dual purpose. So that's kind of fun where it doesn't feel like you're repeating. And then the other thing that I like to do in terms of batching is chopping all of my vegetables at the beginning of the week. So our meal plans actually outline if you want to do meal prep, here's, the meal prep instructions. I think people think of meal prep as like, oh, I'm going to spend all Saturday making all of my meals, and you can do that, but my approach to meal prep is like, how can I do a few things up front that save me time throughout the week? And the place I start is just on Sunday, like while I'm making lunch, I pull out the rest of the vegetables, maybe some, carrots and onions, and chop those and put them in a container. And then on Tuesday, when I need to use some onions, they're already chopped. So it's just making dinner like just that much easier. But again, it kind of goes back to how am I going to keep this sustainable? If my onions are already chopped, then it's a little easier to eat healthy on Tuesday night when maybe I had a long day and it's like hectic. So I think that's where I like to start with batching is just getting the vegetables chopped.
I love that. And I recently started doing that with my greens, like either my salad greens or like if I have kale or chard. When I get them in the house, I will like separate them from the stems, whatever I need to do, and then wash them and dry them. And I lay them out on like a towel and then roll that towel up and stick it into the veggie drawer. And they're
Yeah.
good all week. And it's like when then I like don't really have anything for dinner or I want a salad, I don't have
Mhm.
to take that extra time to wash it and chop it. It's just I just grab it from the drawer and
Yeah.
I think I've increased my greens intake exponentially because of that.
Well, yeah, it's funny. So I have a podcast, Meal Prep Monday, and I talk about the practical, like chops, knife skills, or the best knife, or the best saute pan, and how to make salad dressings. I talk all the practical stuff, but so much what I talk about, and even on Prep Dish, like our newsletter, we talk so much about habits and habit change. And that's why I started with the why. And it's like, how can you I hate to use the word trick, but basically, like, you know yourself. How do you set yourself up to make it easy? How do you set yourself up for success? Having those greens ready to go, it's like you almost can't turn it down. You're like, I've already done the work. Of course I'm going to use it. But it's funny how like that one simple step of just like preparing the greens can sometimes be a barrier at that time of day. Like dinner is just a hard time, right? You've had it's just like not the best time to make the best decisions. So I try and make those decisions earlier in the week. And it's just like I think of it as like setting future Allison up for success.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, I was going to say with your
Good.
green example, like I would take that a step further. It sounds like you already have. You're really appreciating how easy it made your life. So now the next week you're going to do it again, right? And so I always say when people first start out using Prep Dish or a meal plan, even if you're creating your own, that week while you're using that meal plan, really think through, oh my gosh, this is so easy. Like maybe even like say it out loud to someone, give someone a high five. So then the next week you'll be motivated to do it again. So again, this is a lot about habits and how to establish this as more of a lifestyle change. And yes, I want to give you practical tools, but so much of it is like how then to implement it and make sure you're going to stick with it.
That's incredibly powerful
Mhm.
because for so many of us, we know the foods, right? You can walk through the produce aisle and you see all of the vegetables and all of it. So
Yeah.
it's not so much about the food, it's about the habit change, which is
Yeah.
a completely different perspective on food.
I know. Well, because with prep dish, like I give people like, here's exactly step by step what to do. Here's the grocery list and the exact steps you need to take. And some people just run with it and they're great. But other people, I'm like, I want to help you figure out how to make this happen. Like I've given you everything here, but I realized over the years, it's not just that. It's really then how do I make it work in my life? How do I put it on my calendar? How do I carve out that time? How do I have it be something I look forward to? That's a big thing. Like this is something I have the opportunity to eat healthy and it's not, oh, I have to do this. And like, don't look at it like that. Like, oh, this is this cool opportunity to nourish myself and my family. So just so many mindset shifts I think are important.
Yes. And probably is a lot harder in the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
then once you get certain things in line, and like you were
Yeah.
saying, like, give your high five or say out loud that this is easy, because then it will just become part of your routine moving
Yeah.
forward.
And the coolest part is if there's someone out there like kind of trying to do this change for fertility, that can be a good motivating factor. So I would really jump on that because the other thing is once you do have a family after, then it's like, then you've already established the habit. So, if you're doing it, because I know back before I had kids, like yes, meals were hard, but then it became even more important once I had kids to like do it every week. And so the fact that I'd kind of already established those routines and habits. So you can also look at that as like, yes, I'm preparing for this, but I'm also preparing for future to, provide better for my family. So I think that's a helpful.
Yes, because yeah, a lot of time you just have no idea what you're in for once,
Mhm.
yeah, you've got those kids running around. So can you tell us more specifically about Prep Dish? how it helps somebody and, what they're getting when they're signing up.
Yep. So we have the meal plans. I'm a visual person, but they're literally a PDF that tells you exactly what to do. It's 3 pieces. One of them is that grocery list. Here's what you buy for the week. And it's, like kind of 5 meals, 4 to 5 meals. And then there's the meal prep instructions. That's what we were talking about earlier. Like, what do I do, an hour or two to kind of set myself up? And then the third piece is like at dinner, it gives you exactly like, okay, here's how you're going to get dinner on the table tonight. And then when people sign up, we have 4 different options each week. There's gluten-free, one's paleo, one's low carb, and one's just kind of general, like we call them super fast. They're really quick meals that are family friendly. That's a good place to start is with those. And then we have a few like, AIP and a few different like resets. So some of those are good if someone's trying to do any sort of elimination diet or, doing more of something like a short-term thing. So we have some other things there. And yeah, we just kind of try and give people the tools to get the meals on the table and give them a few different options. And we have a 2-week free trial set up at prepdish.com/Dr. Potter. I always say the best thing is go on there, check it out, try it out for a few weeks and see how it works.
That's great. Yeah, and thank you for providing that 2-week free trial. I think this community will be really excited about that.
Yeah, I always say if nothing else, just get on there for 2 weeks and kind of see how it works and see if it works for you. And yeah, I mean, it's a game changer in my family for sure.
Yeah, and just based on what you've talked about over these past, 30 minutes is you have really good recipes. Like you've got salad dressings, you've got sauce things, and so yeah, it would be really good to get these recipes from you for inspiration.
Yes, I'm always saying I try and figure out how to make healthy taste delicious. I have another girl on my team who's also a dietitian and a chef, but I say we both lead with our chef foot, right? Like it has to taste good, otherwise it's not sustainable. Like we want to make this be like this is the way of life. This is how you eat, and you've got to do that by leading with taste. So we make sure it tastes good, and then we put our dietitian hat on after that to make sure it passes that. But we're not going to put out recipes that don't taste good.
That is fantastic. Good. So then how can the person listening, how can they find you? How can they find out more?
Yep. So the website is Prep Dish. I'm at Prep Dish on Instagram. And then I do have the podcast, which is Meal Prep Monday. Like I said, talk cooking and nutrition, but also habit and lifestyle. And I kind of sometimes go on tangents too. So lots of different topics on there.
Great. Well, I'll have all those links in the show notes, and I'll have that link for everyone to get their free trial.
Mhm.
And thank you so much, Allison, for your expertise, for you just putting your work out into the world. You're doing amazing things.
Well, thank you for having me on. It was great talking to you.
Did you love listening to Allison as much as I loved talking with her? I hope you are walking away with these very simple steps that you can take to turn around your meal planning and to enhance your nutrition for your fertility journey. And if you need extra help with that, then grab that free gift that Allison has extended to you. You can get that at prepdish.com/Dr. Potter. I'll have that in the show notes for you as well. And go follow Allison, listen to her podcast, her Monday podcast that has all these really foundational tips for cooking and meal prepping and habit changing specifically around food. If you are loving this podcast and you want to support it, you can leave a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts or simply share this episode with your friends. And as a reminder that the information on this podcast is just that, it's information, and it should not replace the medical advice that you are currently getting from your doctor. And if nobody else has told you this today, I want to be the one to tell you that I believe in you, and I believe in your ability to turn around your fertility struggles, to find the root cause of what's keeping you stuck, to get optimal fertility so you are ready to grow your family like you've always dreamed about. I'll see you right back here next Wednesday.